Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Skyblock News. I'm your host, Derailious, and today we're going to be going over a pretty big set of changes to the greenhouse that should make it a little bit nicer, as well as a design thread on Magic Find. Before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe. Use code RAIL on the Hypixel store for 5% off your order, and use code RAIL or code MILK if you're picking up Hightail. Without any further ado, though, let's get started. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we're back here on the forums for a little bit of patch note reading, except this isn't a patch note, it's actually a design thread. Hello, today we would like to take some time to talk about the future of Magic Find in Hypixel Skyblock. Since its inception, Magic Find has been one of the most exciting and impactful stats in the game, but over the years, as more and more sources of the stat have been added, it has evolved to become quite problematic. Not only does Magic Find have a means of optimization that we deem to be unhealthy, unintuitive, and disruptive to gameplay flow, but the inflation of the stat is the overwhelming reason as to why base drop rates are so low across the board, and we'd like to change that. Nothing is set in stone yet. The purpose of this thread is to present you, the community, with our concept for a Magic Find revamp update that would make some foundational changes to Magic Find as a stat, and to gather your feedback on our proposal. We know Magic Find is a touchy topic, and as a result, we have probably been putting this decision off for far too long, which we apologize for. But without further ado, let's get into it. Update pillars. We have internally established that any update to the Magic Find system would need to satisfy the following 4 pillars in order to positively affect the game's player base in the long term. First, substantially increase the base drop chances of Magic Find expected drops across the game. Mayor Aura showed us how accessible and enjoyable the game can be for newer players and returning players if base drop rates are a bit higher. While Aura did this by giving all players a base amount of Magic Find, we'd instead like to do this by simply increasing the base drop rates of Magic Find affected items, as higher drop rates are less daunting for everyone and more intuitive than drop rates being low, but everyone having some base Magic Find. Number 2, reduce the amount of Magic Find in the game. With base drop rates being significantly higher, there is less of a need for copious amounts of Magic Find. Less sources of the stat will translate to it being easier to obtain in large amounts with our proposed rework, with it no longer being primarily obtained through items costing hundreds of millions. Number 3, eliminate the need for Magic Find swaps. Swapping is downtime, let's get rid of it and make gameplay smoother. Less time swapping to your Magic Find setup means more burrows per hour, sea creature catches per hour, and so on. The goal here is for players to not feel like they're missing out on possible rare drops when playing content in the gear that was designed for it. Number 4, make Magic Find as intuitive as possible. This pillar is trifold. Number 1, move sources of Magic Find from active sources such as armor, equipment, reforges, enchantments, to passive, set-and-forget sources that you will never need to adjust, such as Skyblock levels, attributes, and accessories. Currently, it feels bad to kill a mob in the current game, just to remember you forgot to min-max your Magic Find. Number 2, rework looting to give flat Magic Find. Looting's current functionality raises many questions pertaining to how it functions and interacts with other systems, such as automaton parts, which our proposal fixes. Number 3, compensate for looting no longer multiplying drops such as Jungle Keys and Corallianite, by allowing Magic Find to increase the drop chances of all items, instead of just those with under a 5% drop rate. Overflow applies in the same way as a fortune stat, e.g., a final drop chance of 160% means you're guaranteed one of the item with a 60% chance of a second. Continuing on, so with the 4 pillars above in mind, let's delve into what new drop rates across the game could look like following a proposed Magic Find revamp. For this exercise, we will take one of the most valuable drops from each of the sea creatures native to the Backwater Bayou and compare old Magic Find affected drop rates to the proposed new ones. First, let's take a look at the current drop table and how rates are being affected by Magic Find and looting for our 2 friends, Player A and Player B. So here we have the current drop rates. So as you can see, Can of Worms, 20% is the old base chance. We have Player A at 300 Magic Find and looting 4. They have a 32% chance of dropping the item because it's only affected by looting. If they have looting 5, it goes up to 35%. The Bronze Bowl, the old chance is 4.5, it goes up to 7.2 with Player A, and Player B, it goes up to 8.75 as the looting pushes it out of the Magic Find range. Alligator Skin, they have a 100% chance to drop it. then they have a 160% chance, or 1 guaranteed, 60% per 2. And then it goes up to 175 for player B. The Enchanted Slime Block goes from 0.5 to 3.2 and then 4.8. The Calcified Heart goes from 1 to 6.4 and then 9.6, so on and so forth. With the current rates listed above, let's now compare them to the proposed new ones. Remember that the new system you're about to see aligns with the pillars listed at the top of the thread, meaning it raises base drop chances, lowers the maximum amount of Magic Find, while looking to remove the need to Magic Find swap, and makes the stat more intuitive by giving eluding, making it have Magic Find, as well as allowing for Magic Find to affect all drops, and overflow as if it were a fortune, instead of only applying those under 5%. It's a little bit confusing what they're writing here, but basically, let's see the new rates. The new rates would be significantly better, as you can see. Bronze Bull goes up to 5%, Titan Boa Shed goes up to 1% from 0.2%, and you can see pretty much every single number here across the board is significantly higher. The only one that isn't is the Alligator Skin, which goes from 100% old base chance to 75%, but it now has the chance to give you 2. So based on what the admins wrote, and as you can see when comparing the two tables, the proposed new system in which player C and player D are playing under is noticeably more beneficial. They are generally equally or more likely to get common drops, such as the Can of Worms and the Alligator Skin, and always more likely to get rare drops, such as the Enchanted Slime Block and Titan Boa Shed, than their player A and player B counterparts. The only item for which this is not true is the Calcified Heart. As you can see, it goes from 6.4 and 9.6% down to 5 and 6.25%, but these players have 100 and 150 Magic Find respectively, and I imagine you would be able to get more than this, but we'll have to look into the system as a whole. Additionally, it's worth comparing just how difficult it is for both sets of players to obtain their listed amounts of Magic Find under their respective systems. Let's compare player A and player C, and assume they're both killing the same mob, a Titan Boa. You might expect their sources of Magic Find to look something like this. So this is player A on the left, and this is player C on the right? Player A has Looting 4, a God Potion, a level 200 Golden Dragon pet, a Hephaestus Relic on the pet, Kime 5, full Bestiary Mastery, a Sorrow Armor set, Booster Cookie, 450 pet score, a Slayer Energy Drink, a Rift Necklace, a Magic Find Profile Upgrade, a Private Island Beacon Tier 5 with a Scorched Crystal, a Cinderbat Attribute, a Jerry Candy, an Anguish Artifact, a David's Cloak, and the Renowned Reforge. So they get 310 Magic Find, with around a 1.3% chance to get the Titan Boa Shed. What does the player on the right have? Looting 4, a God Potion, a Booster Cookie, 33% of the Titan Boa Mastery done, Skyblock levels, the Cinderbat Attribute, the Magic Find Profile Upgrade, and 100 pet score. And as you can see, they want Skyblock levels to start giving you Magic Find. It seems like every 20 levels will give you one, which is not very significant in the grand scheme of things, at least when you consider the current rates. I imagine this would be more significant under the new rates, but just looking at this, player C seems very clearly to be an earlier game profile than player A. They have to do a lot less, relatively, and they still get a significantly higher chance to drop the item. As illustrated above, player C is able to obtain higher drop rates than player A without needing to swap out any aspects of their setup, armor, pet, weapon, etc., whereas player A is pet locked to Golden Dragon with Hephaestus Relic, necklace locked to Rift Necklace, cloak locked to David's Cloak, armor locked to Sorrow Armor with the Renowned Reforge, and item locked to their Chimera 5 weapon. Before they can go back to fishing upon killing the Titan Boa, player A needs to revert back to their fishing setup, whereas player C can simply cast their rod again, maintaining the intended gameplay flow. Proposed sources of Magic Find post-rework. So where would player C and player D be getting all of their Magic Find in the new system? Let's take a look. When viewing the tables below, we encourage you to be looking at every one Magic Find through the lens of increases your chance of getting rare drops by 1% across the entire game. This better emphasizes just how strong the stat is than simply seeing the word Magic Find. So proposed sources of unconditional Magic Find, and there are a lot. All of the following sources of Magic Find are what we consider to be set and forget, meaning that the most you'll ever have to do with them is remember to top them up every now and again by eating another Booster Cookie, consuming another God Potion, or etc. We have the Booster Cookie giving you 20, the Bucket of Dye giving you 1, the Century Cake of the next dungeon floor giving you 1, the Cinderbat Attribute giving you 5, Diana's Bookshelf giving you 1, Divine Gift giving you 5, adjusted to be a consumable that grants permanent stats instead of an enchantment, the God Potion giving you 20, Magic Find account upgrades giving you 5, the Necron Ladder giving you 1, Your pet score giving you 1 to 13 based on your total pet score, the private island beacon giving you 5, your hat accessories now giving you 1, which is kind of interesting now they're turning them into pure accessories, the pulse ring maxed giving you 1, and your skyblock levels giving you 1 every 20 skyblock levels. So moving right along, we have the proposed sources of Conditional Magic Find. Conditional Magic Find refers to all sources of the stat that will only activate under certain conditions. This typically refers to sources of the stat that are only active on certain content, that need to be manually used on a per kill basis, or that are time gated behind certain mayor perks. Our design philosophy behind Conditional Magic Find is that we will attach it to items, pets, etc. that we want to encourage players to use in a certain sector of the game. To name a few, the Tarantula pet is designed to be used for Spider Slayer, as seen through its Webbed Cells perk, so it gives a sizable amount of Magic Find on the Broodfather. The Griffin pet is the only pet you can use for the Mythological Ritual, so it gives Magic Find on mythological mobs. Bobbintime is Fishing's dedicated ultimate enchant for armor, so the Magic Find and tracking it grants only applies to sea creatures. So going over the list here, we have Bestiary giving you up to 75 Magic Find, tier 25 on mobs in the Bestiary, Bobbintime 5, which gives you plus 1% to all fishing stats, 1 Magic Find, and 1 tracking on sea creatures per nearby fishing player. We have Crown of Avarice, which gives you up to 10 on mythological mobs, Crown of Greed, which gives you 5 on mythological mobs, Diana's Favor 3, giving you 3 on mythological mobs, the Extremely Real Shuriken giving you 5 on the tagged mob, the Four-Eyed Fish giving you 5 on mythological mobs, the Griffin Pet's King of Kings perk giving you 10 on mythological mobs, Habanero Tactics 5 giving you plus 5 on Slayer bosses when killed with a Slayer weapon, the Hound Pet's Finder perk renamed to Mad Dog, 20 on the Sven Packmaster, the Lava Flame attribute 5 on magmatic mobs, Looting, Chance, and Luck enchantments which have been merged. These can be applied to swords, bows, rods, and pickaxes, up to 25 total Magic Find there. Lord's Blessing, which is the tiered bonus on Magma Lord armor, and the Gauntlet, that gives you 5 on magmatic mobs. Mayor Aatrox's Pathfinder perk, that gives you 10. Stats Apocalypse still gives you 10%. The Megalodon Pet's Blood Scent perk gives you 10 on sharks. The Minotaur attribute gives you 5 on mythological mobs. The Nutcracker Armor's Battalion full set bonus gives you up to 10 on frozen mobs. The Spider and Tarantula Pet's Web Battlefield perk gives you 20 on the Tarantula Broodfather. And the Wolf Fur Mixin gives you 5 on Slayer bosses. So as you can see, the numbers themselves may appear a little bit lower, but comparing the fact that many of the drop rates will be significantly increased, a lot of these are going to become very, very strong. But they're built around certain types of content, so you don't really need to swap as often. A lot of the mythological stuff, you're just going to have on anyway. You're going to have your Crown of Greed on. You're going to have stuff like a Four-Eyed Fish, your Griffin Pet, etc., so on and so forth for many of these other items that give you Magic Find. And we have the proposed removed sources of Magic Find. Many of the following items that gave Magic Find were quite restrictive to build variety or extremely niche in nature. All of the items listed below would no longer give any Magic Find under their new system, although many of them have been reworked to fit into a new niche. You may find the name of each former source on the left, along with a designer explanation on the right. Please note that the below is not final and is subject to change, hence why this is a design thread. Nothing below is currently in the development phase, so this is not something that will be on alpha tomorrow. Starting off, we have the Annihilation Cloak, in which they have removed the base Magic Find. They want to get rid of anything that would encourage equipment swapping. Next, they have the Black Cat Pet. They have not fully decided yet. If any pet keeps its base Magic Find, it will remain BIS for all activities. A focal point of the update is to prevent swapping, and the pet locking evoked by G-Drag's insane amount of Magic Find is to remove the stat from all pets, regardless of how good or bad it is on them. So we will be removing the Black Cat's Supernatural perk, but we haven't yet decided what would replace it. The Blaze Pet, another embodiment, now only increases combat stats. To avoid players becoming pet locked to Blaze Pet while on the Crimson Isle, it maintains a niche when used in combination with Frozen Blaze. The Clover Helmet, not fully decided yet. Shen's items became a misstep in design when they ended up becoming BIS items worth tens of billions of coins instead of fun meme items that served as a coin sink for the economy. They haven't yet decided what to do with Clover Helmet and are open to ideas. Current concepts for you to chew on. First, becomes a toggleable accessory that grants plus 5 Magic Find but minus 5% all other stats. Main issue with this is that the item would then become needed for max Skyblock XP, which they don't want to do while it's still in Shen's. Becomes a helmet used for something else, We have a number of updates coming out, some introducing new stats, could be a use there. It's entirely possible to roll the Magic Find revamp and revisit this item later, since it is not a widespread, widely available swap like Sorrow. In my opinion, turn it into an accessory, but give it maybe a special rarity associated with it that could probably be put on a few items like certain event items and things like that, that when put in your accessory bag don't actually give you any Skyblock XP. I feel like that's the easiest solution, but maybe they don't want to add a rarity associated to stuff like this. I don't know. You could use special for it. I think people would probably not mourn the small amount of Skyblock XP they'd be quote-unquote losing from that. That's just an idea, but regardless, the Clover Helmet will be changed. Next, we have the David's Cloak. They're removing the Magic Find base stat. Same idea here. The BIS Hunting and Foraging Cloak doesn't need to be Magic Find associated to make it BIS for other activities, so on and so forth. People actually agree with that. That was something that was stated all the way back with the release of Galatea. It didn't make sense for this item to have Magic Find, so it no longer will. Same thing with the Delirium Cloak as well as the Destruction Cloak. They're removing Magic Find as a base stat. For the Dragon Horn, they have removed the Renowned bonus, giving you Magic Find, and now only increases combat stats. Renowned is currently BIS for Magic Find due to increasing your final Magic Find stat by up to 1.04x. In order to prevent armor swaps, the Dragon Horn needs to no longer affect Magic Find. The Ender Dragon Pet, Superior, now only increases combat stats. Same deal, same trend. Many items from the end love to increase Magic Find from a percentage, which is really where a lot of the original Magic Find problems originated. Removing Magic Find from all pets necessitates removing it from this source too. Enrichments, there are no longer going to be Magic Find enrichments. That's kind of interesting. They want to get rid of the min-maxing nature of Magic Find. Whatever, fair enough. Players with active Magic Find enrichments will be compensated for the change, probably given equivalent enrichments or like a bunch of swappers or whatever. The Entropy Suppressor, Cold Fused, now no longer gives you Magic Find. This can only be used on the Blaze Daggers, and it gives you Magic Find, which means if they didn't touch the item after this change, the BIS Magic Find weapon would be Blaze Slayer Daggers. Do they want that? Probably not. The Goblin Pet, they removed the Magic Find base stat. Same deal. Currently, the pet is a solid niche item used predominantly for gold collection in the Mines of Devon. They feel like that's fine. They just don't want it to have Magic Find. Whatever. For the Golden Dragon Pet, they have removed the Magic Find base stat and from Shining Scales. G-Drag is the most problematic source of Magic Find, perhaps in the entire game, accounting for a massive amount of obtainable Magic Find that's locked to the pet, meaning you need to pet swap to it for a massive amount of activities. Removing the Magic Find from the G-Drag is perhaps the single most foundational change that would need to occur as part of a revamp of this nature, though the pet would be compensated through buffs in other departments, as it will always be a particularly expensive pet. Kind of interesting there. For Grandma's Knitting Needle, it is going to be reworked. The old is +1, 5% Magic Find at 50 combo. The new is, I don't even know what that is, chatters. Grandma Wolf Pet no longer grants Magic Find. Sources replaced with more combat wisdom and coins. Grandma Wolf Pets would no longer grant Magic Find for combo, instead just granting more coins and combat wisdom. The pet was never intended to be used in the unintuitive way that it has become to be, so they're simplifying it. Fair enough. Hephaestus Relic no longer increases Magic Find. Will still increase all other stats for the time being, but not Magic Find. This is more of a placeholder change until we can find a rework for the item. For the Jerry Candy, it no longer grants Magic Find. Though it was included in the God Pot, this effect was otherwise only granted by a special mayor. Removing the Magic Find from it will reduce the FOMO for players who can't always afford to have a God Potion on, and God Pot still has its own Magic Find anyway. Legion now only increases combat stats. Same deal, no longer increases Magic Find, but increases combat stats even more, up to 0.5% per player at tier 5, which is interesting. Lucky Clover got a smile here. We have some changes in mind for this item, however, since they're related to an upcoming update, we can't spoil them just yet. The Lucky Dice has been reworked. Instead of granting Sea Creature Chance and Magic Find, it now grants Treasure Chance as well as Fishing Speed, along with a Lucky bonus that makes you 7% more likely to get outstanding catches. Very, very interesting. The Mammoth Pet had Tusk Luck reworked. Tusk Luck no longer grants you Magic Find, instead increases combat stats by 0.1 to 10%, while in the Glaciite Mineshafts, this pet still isn't in a particularly great place, so a larger scale rework is likely further on down the line. Miner's Blessing Heart of the Mountain perk will be reworked. The old is 30 Magic Find on Mining Islands. Now it's +1 drop from the Crystal Nucleus. Buff to Alloy Grinding, Skate the Pets, and similar drops would have their rates buffed as part of this update. Minos Relic no longer increases Magic Find, will still increase all other stats for the time being, but not Magic Find. It's more of a placeholder change, same as Hephaestus. Mithril Golem will be reworked. Refined Senses, renamed to Ghostbuster, has a 5% chance to drop 50 to 5,000 Mithril Powder when killing a ghost. I actually kind of like that. That's kind of sick, I'm not even going to lie. The Mole Pet will be reworked. Loses its base stat Magic Find, but Magnetic Nose now grants up to 10 Magic Find on automatons. Very, very interesting. Slayer Energy Drink will be reworked. Its old was adding 10 Magic Find to critical potions. Now it adds plus 5 defense to potions with that stat. Primarily done so that players don't have to spend time interacting with a brewing system that isn't where they want it to be on a frequent basis to achieve max Magic Find. The Rat Pet replaced Magic Find with Health Regen. Intended as a meme pet added during Dante's reign, this one has evoked some weird loot sharing, Magic Find min-maxing strategies that, though admittedly funny, they could probably do without. The Rift Necklace is not fully decided yet. The Rift Necklace is directly marketed as the best necklace in the game in some in-game menus, so the question has to be asked of whether it is still true if it loses its Magic Find. Perhaps it could keep it while in the Rift, at the very least. Other ideas they have floating around are allow this piece to become divine and maybe buff its combat stats up a little bit. I actually really like that idea. I think that'd be really interesting if it gave a little bit more strength, crit damage, etc., and it became truly the best combat necklace in the game. Part of me also just thinks, let it have its Magic Find. Just let it have it. It's pitched in-game as the best thing. A lot of the annoyance about Magic Find swapping is that you're swapping from something that is BIS for any activity to something that isn't. The Rift Necklace isn't in that situation, though. It's directly marketed as the best thing. I think it's fine if it just gets buffed up and it truly takes over as the best one in the game for any situation related to combat, at least. I would love to hear your thoughts about this. What do you think about the Rift Necklace? I think it's fine either way. But it seems like they're a little bit confused as to what to do as well. Sorrow Armor will be reworked. It no longer has base Magic Find, but now has a tiered bonus, granting Magic Find and increased damage versus Ghosts. Sorrow was the most problematic armor when it came to Magic Find swapping, due to it giving unconditional Magic Find, so they're getting rid of that and making it niche on Ghost. They hope that the set, when paired with Mythic Mithril Golem's Ghostbuster perk, will make Ghost a more viable way of grinding Mithril Powder for stronger players, and I think that's a great idea. And Superior Dragon Armor, Superior Blood, now only increases combat stats. Remember when this was the BIS mining armor for a while upon Crystal Hollow's release because it increased Pristine? It would become meta again for Magic Find following this update if it wasn't once again changed, this time to only increase combat stats. And that mostly covers what they wanted to share with us today. To recap, they outlined the 4 design pillars that they believe any changes to the Magic Find system should abide by. They used the Backwater Bayou's rare drops to compare the old and new Magic Find systems, showcasing what the new system is broadly more beneficial to new and old players alike. They provided us with an exhaustive list of every item that would still give Magic Find under the new system, as well as which items would be losing it. If anything is missing from the list, please respond to the thread, and they'll do their best to add to it. That's about all for today. We will leave this post up for a prolonged period to gather community feedback. A Magic Find update is not currently in development, and they will not consider working on one until they've gathered a sufficient amount of supportive community feedback. Above all else, we understand that Magic Find is a very important part of the game, and will thus be as patient as necessary as we work on improving it. And they also have an FAQ here, going over a few questions. The first question here is, why should newer players get RNG drops as quickly as me? I've been playing for years. The answer, they still won't. Drop rates across the game are traditionally static, meaning that if 2 players are killing the same mob without the context of items or progression, they will have the exact same chance of dropping an item from it. It is only when modifiers are introduced that one player becomes exponentially more likely to drop an item than another. The 3 most potent modifiers when it comes to the drop chances are the following: Magic Find, looting, and player efficiency. Although this proposed update seeks to address the problem proposed by Magic Find and looting, player efficiency will remain the broadly deterministic factor when it comes to how often you can get RNG drops. To illustrate the above, let us assume 3 players, all at varying game stages, are seeking out a 0.1% drop under the current Magic Find system. We have player A, who's level 500, he has 300 Magic Find, looting 5, the actual drop rate for them is 0.7, The 250 player is 150 magic find and looting 4. The actual drop rate for them is 0.4. And there's a level 25 guy with 0 magic find and looting 4, El Bozo. The actual drop rate for them is 0.16%. Immediately upon factoring in magic find and looting, it becomes apparent that the 3 players are not on an even playing field. However, the hidden factor of player efficiency puts player C at an even greater disadvantage. Let us assume that the target mob has 10,000 HP and lives in the graveyard. While player C may be able to roll for the drop once 10 seconds after factoring in travel time, the time it takes them to kill the mob with their gear, and similar factors, player A can likely use the AoE of, say, a Hyperion to kill over a dozen of that mob in the same time. Player B can likely also kill a handful of them, though they may face restrictions in departments such as mana. While the difference in efficiency varies on a case-by-case basis, it remains true that there is never a situation in which player C is favored. In fact, it glosses over several factors that could further harm player C's rates in particular. Competition from players with better gear, being unable to access the areas where the rates are better due to the low skill level, and being unable to kill the mob because it's too strong for them. Ultimately, while efficiency is inextricably entwined with progression and a natural part of any game, it is the compounded variance of efficiency, magic find, and looting that creates a gap between players that is simply unreasonable. The aim of this update is for these factors to be less compacted, meaning that, TLDR, player efficiency means that stronger players can roll for rare drops more frequently, outside of boss content, which is traditionally not affected by magic find. Even if every player had the exact same magic find, which they never will, the stronger players will have better rates over a prolonged period on account for their ability to roll for the drops more frequently. The second question I'm not even going to keep too long on: does the new system make only Backwater Bayou drops more common? Do they think we're stupid? Guys, do the admins think that we're dumb and that there's going to be people who walk away from this thread and be like, oh my god, they're making Backwater Bayou stuff only more common, it's over for everybody else? Guys, this applies for the whole game. They're just using Bayou as a proof of concept. The system would be expanded to the entire game. It would move to a development cycle, which they would declare on the thread rather than jump scaring all of us with an alpha post on a random Monday morning. There would be an exhaustive list of drop rate changes containing everything from Scathe the Pets to Shimmering Wool. So they would go over everything if this were to actually become a change. And number 3, what happens to Magic Find now? Will more be added? Yes, more Magic Find will continue to be added to the game regardless of what happens with this proposed update, but only in ways they deem healthy. As mentioned previously, this would take the form of set and forget items, attributes, consumables, and so on and so forth. They feel like attributes are a particularly healthy expression of Magic Find on account of them being only able to give Magic Find on mobs of certain types, such as how the Minotaur's Mythological Fortune attribute gives Magic Find on mythological mobs specifically. They think this is fun and introduces a healthy element of optimization, with players being able to get more Magic Find on mobs with many types. Titanoboa would theoretically benefit from 3 different attributes that give Magic Find on animals, aquatic, and elusive mobs, since it possesses all 3 types, but needing to put in the prep first by maxing the relevant attributes to then being able to reap the rewards whenever they spawn a Titanoboa, without needing to break up the gameplay loop by swapping out a large portion of their gear. I agree with that most generally. Alright, that was a very, very, very long thread. I am now exhausted, but I also feel very, very good about all of this. This is basically exactly what I have been talking about in videos and streams for a few months now. Obviously, they're not doing this because of me. This is just something that they've also thought separately, probably for many years now. They've been trying to make changes like this for years. They've been constantly talking about how they wanted to do a Magic Find update, and I'm glad it's taking this form. It seems like the Aura event also taught them that the game cannot continue to be pushed in these 2 very different directions. They want to get everybody back on track, probably because they want to release more content for mid and late game players, which is seemingly the goal. They want to do this update so that it's easier for them to release stuff in the future without dealing with swapping, without dealing with very, very low drop rates that piss half the community off, and the other half optimizes the hell out of the game, and then the game becomes trivially easy for them. I hope that this ends up happening. So far, if I refresh the page here and I scroll down, we can see that things are mostly positive. It definitely does seem like it's significantly more positive than negative. Obviously, there are going to be people who maybe didn't read the thread in full, maybe just disagree, whatever. They don't like these ideas. I think that this is what's needed to make Skyblock A, more fair, but also more accessible for newer players. and I think a lot of you guys in the audience agree as well. So leave all your thoughts both here and obviously on this thread. It's the best place to make your voice heard. They're not going to be rushing into this. They're going to be doing this over a very long period of time, so you have a lot of time to make your voice heard. Starting off today, the team has implemented an offline grace period for mutations that spread while the player is offline. First, 3 growth cycles pass normally. After that, a 5-cycle grace period begins, in which they don't grow and don't consume water. If the player hasn't logged on by the end of that grace period, the mutations resume normal growth cycles. So the goal here seems to be, if you're somebody who's not logging on every day, and you're logging on to see that you have a bunch of dead plants because things mutated while you were offline, well, that shouldn't happen to you as often. I would love to see this shown maybe in a graphic. I feel like it can be kind of hard to understand for the average player, but it does seem to make sense. Something else I wanted to show you that they added is if I break this unfinished God Seed, you can see I don't actually break it anymore, and it does show a confirmation message. This is for all ungrown mutations that would not yield any drops. This is something that can be toggled off, but I don't know why you would ever want to do that. There are also a ton of other generalized changes here. They fixed the double quantity in pest rare drop messages. They gave Zombud and Godseed priority over other crops in mutating, which is very nice to see. They fixed the garden chip Skyblock XP tasks not showing up in the Skyblock guide. They fixed more NPCs not accepting bachelor's roses sometimes. This is probably a bug that was happening that they have resolved. They've also fixed watering cans not carrying over data when upgrading at the farming essentials in the Skymart. They fixed crops dropping while clearing an uncleared plot. They fixed crop fever wart prey to RNGesus level dropping 2 instead of 6, which means that should be a little bit stronger now. They fixed spooky bait not mentioning spooky festival requirements in the lore, and they fixed the Alchemage visitor requirement message. Wrapping up here, this is probably the most significant update Hypixel Skyblock will receive if the Magic Find update does come out in the ways that they have discussed. It's a full change of design philosophy, of how the game is built from the ground up, and I'm definitely interested to see it come to fruition, as I think it will have the potential to bring a lot of players both back to the game and make the experience more enjoyable for pretty much everybody, from the early game to the late game. I would love to hear what you guys think about this. Leave your thoughts down below about both this and also the greenhouse updates we got today, which kind of got overshadowed, but I still think they're really good. Leave all of your thoughts down below. Like and subscribe, use code RAIL on the Hypixel store for 5% off your order, and look to the future, fellas. I'll see you then.